Crash and burn.
Hey everybody. So tonight I'm looking to discuss what is potentially, no, I think it actually probably is the most emotionally draining and emotionally significant episode of the entire run of Millennium. And that is season 1, episode 10, The Wild and the Innocent. This was, when did this first come out? It was like, I can't remember. I know it was early 97. It was around my birthday, so it was in January, I think. And I remember the reviews that I read at the time in the weekend newspaper TV guide that you got for free with the Saturday or Sunday edition. They said that this episode was just, it was a little too draining emotionally, given the subject matter and what the main character, Maddie Haskell, what she goes through. And then they alluded to this is what an episode of the show would look like if Cormac McCarthy wrote it. And Cormac McCarthy did not write this episode. For Christ's sakes, I can't remember the name of the guy that did, but he's written a bunch. He worked, I know he worked on Third Watch. He came on as a supervising producer for the 6th season, the final season of HBO's Oz, the fucking prison drama that they had running towards the end of the late 90s through the early 2000s. God, that show was vicious. So Cormac McCarthy did not write this, but that's an accurate enough comparison because that's exactly what this feels like. Like, elements of this episode actually remind me completely of McCarthy's book Outer Dark about Rinthi and how the world treated her radically different than how the world treated her brother in that. But that's where the comparison sort of starts and stops, because unfortunately in this world, Maddie has never been treated well. This episode is rough. So she's living with her mom, who has recently committed suicide, and I think it's her mom's boyfriend, a dude by the name of Jim Gilroy. As it turns out, Jim has been raping Maddie on the regular for years because Jim is actually a known serial killer who wiped out 3 nurses. He raped and killed 3 nurses over the course of, I believe, a weekend. And he's been living the quiet life this whole time, well, so to speak. And he's been raping Maddie this whole time, and he ends up impregnating her, and that sort of that's the entire episode, is Maddie and her boyfriend, Bobby. They kidnap Jim, and they're forcing him to tell them where Maddie's baby is, Angel. And Maddie is so tragic, like, no one is ever nice to her. Like, and she says that at the end when she's in prison, and Frank is visiting her, and she says that you're the only man that ever did anything nice for me. And the end of this episode is brutal. So along the way, Bobby kills a cop and Maddie doesn't stop him. Bobby kills a couple in a house. Maddie doesn't stop him. And therefore, she's complicit in these crimes. And so she's going to most likely die in prison. He kills a cop. And that sort of sets the tone right there. Like, you can tell that. The other thing I noticed about this episode, there's more of a focus on the score. I noticed that the music seemed to have more attention paid to it. It seemed to be almost more in the forefront, whereas the score for the rest of the show and the rest of the episodes, they seem to be, comfortably in the background, like a score is supposed to. But in this episode, the score is a little more prominent. And right from that point, you can tell that she's screwed. Like, after your boyfriend kills a cop, you should probably play along, of course, play it cool, and then you're supposed to sneak away and go call the police and say what happened and rat him out, essentially. But she doesn't. And I don't know, this episode is just so rough. It's so sad because Maddie is so likable and she's so nice. And finally, they find the people that have adopted her son. And Bobby busts through the door, knocks the dad out. The kid's crying. Her son's crying. The mom doesn't want to give, her baby to this chick, who's Maddie, of course, who's the baby's mom. But this chick has no idea about that. And Bobby's like screaming at her to take the baby and let's go. And that's when she realizes that if she took the baby and raised it, that the baby would just turn out to be another Bobby, like her boyfriend, or another piece of shit like Jim. Or as she says specifically, a man like my father. And And then she's arrested. And she's left, the last scene is her talking to Frank in an interrogation room. And he asks her, he says, like, are you going to be okay? And she sighs, doesn't answer. And she says that she spends her time thinking about her son, and she's hoping that he isn't thinking about her. And she asks Frank to bring Jordan back because she'd like to meet her. And Frank says that he will. And I always wondered if he ever did, because a character like Maddie would deserve that sort of thing. And she's going to rot in prison for the rest of her life because she was complicit in a cop killing. And it's so sad. It's like the amount of suffering that she experienced, that should have found a way into her defense, but I doubt it did. It doesn't matter anyways. You kill a cop and your life's over. And this episode was rough. Like, I hate this episode, but I also love this episode because it's just so draining and it's so real. And it showed that this show had more going for it than just sort of like the demonic, satanic sort of cult, crazy serial killer thing. This episode has none of that. This episode is very real. It's about somebody experiencing a lifetime of physical and sexual abuse. And her mom, too. She believes her mom killed herself, but it was Jim that killed her. Jim killed her mom and set it up to look like suicide. And I just feel so bad for Maddie Haskell. Like, I think about this episode all the time. Even when I'm like not cycling through this show, this is the episode that keeps playing over and over in my head, especially the end. Like, I always wonder if Frank brought Jordan. I doubt it if I had to guess, but she definitely didn't deserve to rot in a jail cell for the rest of her life, given how much she'd suffered. But yeah, this episode's fucking brutal. And I feel like crying now. So I'm going to leave it there because, this is just so ugly. The cool thing is, too, is her boyfriend, Bobby, he's played by Jeffrey Donovan, the guy that played Bottles in Shot Caller. He was the focus of the show Burn Notice. He was in the second Blair Witch. He did a bunch of things. He's a great actor. It's cool that he was in the episode. But yeah, look, I'm getting out of here because I'm wildly depressed now that I talked about this. I knew that I was going to talk about this episode because this is, like I said, the most emotionally engaging episode of the entire show for me. But, I always feel like crying. Like, it's always such a big fucking downer. And that's it. I am getting out of here. So like always, thank you so much for hanging out with me for damn near 8 minutes while I attempted to say something decent and without crying about this episode. Because fuck, now I'm all depressed. I'm getting out of here. You guys are amazing. Have a good night.